Hello and welcome to Lakeside Raceway, Queensland for round 3 of the Shell Advance Australian Motorcycle Road Racing Championships. Absolutely picture perfect, this circuit, the weather brilliant for racing. Some of the riders starting to get revved up as we get set for a start. We managed to catch up with them about how much they enjoy racing motorcycles.
The thrill, I suppose, the adrenaline, the crowd, the women in the crowd, just the excitement, the camaraderie in amongst the pits with all the fellow competitors. It's just a great atmosphere.
Probably sliding the bike actually is what I enjoy the most, when you come out of a corner and it breaks traction and you get it sideways and you have to control the throttle. If you give it too much throttle, you go over the top. If you not enough throttle, you go too slow. So that's the best part I like.
When it's close and exciting, it's the most enjoyable for me. Getting out in the front there and leading the race doesn't do anything for you. But when even if you're going slow and they're with you, you can make it exciting as well. Your parts pumping, and that's when it happens.
Well, the riders certainly revved up getting ready for this round 3. In fact, a man who was very revved up for this round was the top qualifier in the Superbikes, Troy Bayliss. Congratulations, pole position. How's the track? I mean, you're finding it bumpy?
It is bumpy, but everyone's got that problem, but I'm feeling pretty good, and the bike's doing everything it should, and everything's going well. Here, the start's important, so if you can get off the line in front, you've got a good chance of doing well, but if you get off the line bad, it's going to be a bit of a struggle. So,
tell me, what's the best part about racing a motorcycle?
Adrenaline.
What's your biggest fear out there?
Not going fast enough for the team.
Well, somehow I don't think Team Kawasaki are going to have to worry too much about how fast Troy Bayliss wants to go. With me in commentary here at Lakeside, Ken Wooden, editor of Australian Motorcycle News. Ken, as the riders come up onto the grid, some real dramas yesterday.
Well, particularly for Peter Goddard, our championship leader on the Ansett Air Freight Suzuki. Spectacular accident at over 200 kilometres an hour through the kink. Practically demolished the bike, yet somehow the team have got him back on the grid for today, and he's qualified not far off Troy Bayliss's pace.
Well, they certainly have worked hard. The boys worked all night, flew a chassis up from the team based down south. Look now at the riders, just about into the starters' hands. The start, all important. You heard from Bayliss. Let's see who gets away off the line well as they charge on down. Craig Connell, bike 19, looks pretty strong. Buckmaster tries up the inside, bike 46. Where is Bayliss? Here he is. You're on board with Bayliss, and you can see that he's sitting back in about 5th or 6th place. Now Goddard's gone on by. Ken, this is not a good start here at Lakeside.
Very important to get the whole shot here. It's a 2.4 kilometre track, very hard to pass on, very flowing as we look at Craig Connell on bike 19, the young Queenslander taking over the ride from Sean Giles halfway through the season. It's only his 3rd outing on the bike. He loves this circuit, he loves the bike. He doesn't have a lot of experience on it, but he's certainly keeping Australia's best superbike riders behind him on this opening circuit.
He's really quickly come to grips with the motorcycle. Here at his home circuit, you'd fully expect that he's going to be able to use it to its best. That's what he's doing. Buckmaster back into 2nd place. Now, Damon Buckmaster loves this place. He's won the Hub 300 here. He is very quick here, so you can expect some big things from these two. Let's have a look a little further afield. Goddard now up into 3rd place. What a ride from this man already. Settling in very quickly with a new setup on the bike. It's been difficult for them. Through the warm-ups, they were working hard on a setup that he could use. So, the two Suzukis sitting back in 2nd and 3rd. Next one through, Ben Archibald on the Ducati. So, Ben Archibald starting to come to grips with the high horsepower machine. In fact, last year he rode a Kawasaki, so he kind of knows the best of both worlds at the moment, though he is Ducati bound and is doing a fantastic job, Ken. The bikes are hard to ride, especially on a circuit like this where they have to steepen up the steering to get them to steer.
Well, it's a compromise. Lakeside is a very bumpy circuit, and a number of the corners they drop off on the camber. So to get offline to pass a slower rider is very difficult, because you're getting then onto what is in essence a slower part of the circuit. As we look at them now heading along the front straight through this flat out left-hand kink. Well, it's flat out for those riders that are able to take it. Unfortunately, Peter Goddard wasn't one of those, losing the front end in qualifying and practically destroying the Ansett Air Freight Suzuki. As we look at Damon Buckmaster on the Shell Advance Suzuki dealer team bike, a sister bike to Peter Goddard's. Doesn't that look spectacular in slow motion? But back at the head of the pack, we've got Craig Connell, bike 19, the $80,000 Ducati 955 Corsa. heading the similarly priced Suzuki of Damon Buckmaster, tucked in close behind. These two young chargers leading the most experienced man in the field, Peter Goddard, on bike 24.
Well, Goddard definitely has the experience. He has the racecraft. He has the ability to sit back and have a bit of a think about the situation. Rather than burn the tyres up, they've got quite a distance to do. This track is tough on tyres. It's tough on suspensions. Steve Martin there just coming through on the Melbourne Suzuki machine. But more than anything, it is tough on the riders. This is a difficult circuit. Absolutely nowhere to have a rest. The whole circuit is corners. You can see here, late on brakes after coming through the kink at better than 240 kilometres an hour. Then heading through this corner, very difficult. Brings you to the bus stop section, which is over a rise and then a left-hand blind corner. Look there, Troy Bayliss in the back of screen there, working very hard, trying to make up for a bad start. Here he comes. Now he's into 4th place, so he's on the back of Goddard and on a charge. Knows he's the fastest man on the circuit from qualifying. They really didn't have too many problems with the machines. They just got them sorted out very early on Thursday, Friday, went through and qualified in pole.
I think the hardest thing is what we spoke about earlier, Greg, and that is finding a line past riders on this circuit. You can see there at Eastern Loop that if you get to the outside of the circuit, the bitumen drops away, which really puts a greater lean on the angle of the tyre, and it's very hard to get the power on to get past. Up into the carousel, which is the area they're heading now, one of the easiest places to pass under brakes, and that's exactly what Damon Buckmaster has done. Up the inside of Craig Connell, he's now got the Shell Suzuki out in front, the Ducati tucked in behind, followed by Peter Goddard, and then our pole sitter, Troy Bayliss, through the bus stop. Another tricky part of the circuit. As they come out of this last part of the bus stop, this right-hand flick, they have to get the power on early for the drive into Hungry Corner. You get it on too early, and it's a ride right up out of the seat and over the handlebars, as Damon Buckmaster experienced last year at this corresponding round when he was riding a 600 Supersport bike.
Buckmaster doing a fantastic job out there at the moment. Can he take the pressure from Connell? Remember, Connell on his home circuit now, very comfortable with the track, but the Ducati's shaking, weaving and wobbling. You're on the Kawasaki now, right up behind Goddard. You can see there Goddard using a lot of the circuit. Round the outside goes Bayliss, up into 3rd place. This is a strong ride from this young man. He definitely wants to lead the race and is prepared to take all and everyone in his way as he gets through to 3rd place now. Right in behind Craig Connell. Connell through the bus stop, comes on through. Again, they get hard on the power. Have a look at this. Bayliss through the dirt. So he's off the circuit, straight lining the bus stop section and on the dirt. Ken, that's as close as you're ever going to get to being out of control.
Well, looking at Troy Bayliss now, up the inside of Craig Connell into the bus stop. He's now up into 2nd, heading off after Damon Buckmaster. Got the bike right out of shape. This Kawasaki using every bit of bitumen, every bit of its suspension movement, and Bayliss not one to be backward on grabbing a handful of brakes at the most amazing parts of the circuit. He really is the most spectacular rider out there. 27 years old, from Taree in New South Wales, spray painter by trade, and he's practically glued to the paintwork of that Shell Suzuki out in front. The Zurich Kawasaki and the Suzuki very evenly matched in both horsepower and top speed. Through this kink, nearly side by side. Let's look for Bayliss under brakes as they come into the carousel. No, he can't do it. This is a very heady ride from Damon Buckmaster. 22 years of age, inexperienced when it comes to superbike riding. As Bayliss now up the inside into the bus stop, we've got a new race leader.
Well, this is a brilliant ride from Buckmaster as well, trying to hold out someone who is so determined to get through into the lead. Now, Buckmaster, if he's smart or if he's lucky, will be able to get the toe and simply go along with Troy Bayliss. Bayliss is on the charge. He's the fastest man out on the circuit. Now, oh, have a look at this. He's lost the front end, and that is race ended for Troy Bayliss. That is terrible luck. He's walked away, he's A-OK, but Ken, this is big.
It's certainly a big step off, but what's fantastic here is that despite the speed, the tumbling through the bitumen, the dirt, Troy Bayliss jumps up and walks away, and that's a reflection on the quality of the protective gear that these guys wear these days. There's plastic shells, there's high-density foam, the boots have got protective cups in them, and that's fantastic. Not fantastic that he's out of the race, but that he can walk away unscathed from a step-off like that.
Well, at half race distance, it is now Ben Archibald putting the pressure on. He has now moved into the lead, and he's looking pretty strong out there, Ken. He seems to be coming to grips with the Ducati very quickly.
Well, Ben's had an up and down year. He's had a lot of misfortune with little niggling problems such as gear levers falling off and fuel pump problems, but as we look at the slow-mo of him through the bus stop, and look at Damon Buckmaster up out of the seat as that Suzuki bucks and wallows as he tries to get the power on. No such problem for the two Ducatis, the V twins of Craig Connell on bike 19 and Ben Archibald on bike 6. They look a lot smoother, they look a lot nimbler, even though they weigh exactly the same as the 750cc Suzuki.
Well, they're definitely working them hard as they come down through this kink. Now we've got Connell up the inside, pushing Buckmaster back into third. Ducatis 1 and 2. And it's great to see that they've got two bikes running at the front of the field. What about Peter Goddard? A big get-off yesterday. He was uninjured, but the bike was damaged, and he is certainly putting in a heroic ride, sitting back in 4th place. Don't ever underestimate just how tough Peter Goddard is.
And let's not underestimate the performance of these two Ducati riders, Ben Archibald and Craig Connell, both being called in to the Ducati dealer team this year to replace the two riders that had been signed at the start of the season, Sean Giles and the New Zealander Jason McEwen. So both these riders not expecting to be racing Ducatis when the 1996 season kicked off, and here they are leading the 3rd round of the Shell Advance Series.
Connell here on his local track, the reigning 250cc Grand Prix champion, has a moment. Buckmaster gets up the inside. Damon Buckmaster will take any and all, thank you very much. Now, what can Connell do? He'll have to think his way back forward. Here it is on slow-mo. Have a look at this. He opens the throttle. It hits a bump, steps out big time on me. He almost has to put a foot down to save it. Buckmaster straight on through.
That was at Hungry Corner, Greg, and it's one of the corners we were talking about before where the track's got some bumps, it drops off camber. If you get offline, you're in all sorts of trouble. As we look at Ben Archibald, he's in no trouble at all as he wheel stands into the lead in this race. In fact, he's opening the gap over Damon Buckmaster in second, with Craig Connell now challenging to try to get back into that second position. He's not going to do it on that corner. Well, yes, he is, as he tries to go round the outside of Buckmaster. No, can't do it. Once again, that was the corner where we saw Connell have the difficulty the lap before. He was on a much tighter line, was able to drive up the hill, but just didn't have the distance to get ahead of the Suzuki of Damon Buckmaster. As we see Ben Archibald opening the gap, but Connell does it this time up the inside through the kink. Buckmaster trying to come back under brakes as they go past a slower rider. Ben Archibald, we've got problems.
What appalling luck for the young man. Can you believe this? The bike has broken down yet again. Kent only a couple of laps from home. This is not good.
Well, it's not good if you're leading the race. I'd hate to be in Craig Connell's shoes. We've seen Troy Bayliss, race leader on the Zurich Kawasaki, go out at half distance with a spectacular get-off. We've now seen Ben Archibald, the race leader on the Ducati dealer team bike number 6, go out with 2 laps remaining as he pushes the bike over against the Armco railing and walks away, a very disappointed Ben Archibald. But his teammate, Craig Connell, looks like he could have this race in the keeping with only 2 laps to run.
I think surely Craig Connell came here to his home circuit hoping he could do this. Buckmaster round the outside, up the inside and into the lead. Certainly Craig Connell couldn't do anything about that. If Buckmaster wants to try that, he's just going to have to let him do it. Through the bus stop section one more time. The crowd on their feet, enthralled with this battle going on for the lead. These two guys prepared to throw it all at each other. Have a look at this. Here is Buckmaster, the back sideways. The rear tyre coming off the ground. He simply tips it in. Craig Connell does not have a corner to turn into and is forced back into second place.
That's a very committed move by Buckmaster. Very late on the brakes, no room for error. And with 1 lap to run, Buckmaster looks like he could have this race in his keeping. As they cross the line, final lap, Buckmaster out in front on the Shell Advance Suzuki GSXR 750T, looking for his first win in a superbike race in Australia. Craig Connell on bike 19, the lap record holder at Eastern Creek, in only his second outing on this bike, tucked in behind. Both these young chargers now firmly established at the sharp end of Australian superbike racing.
Little doubt that Buckmaster is super committed to try and get this race in the bag and finally take a superbike career win. And he looks strong out there. He's 1.5 corners from home. Connell will need some real magic if he's going to try and take the win from Buckmaster. For the final time, onto the straight, Damon Buckmaster, head down underneath the paintwork, heads for the checkered flag and the first superbike win in his career. Connell gets up for second, Goddard third, and Privateer Martin has gotten up for 4th place. Earlier, we spoke to Peter Goddard about machine setup, especially here at Lakeside.
Well, myself personally, I have a lot of experience in that, so I always try to set the bike up so it's easier to ride, make it smooth and fast. But at a track like this, Lakeside, it's extremely bumpy and extremely difficult, and it certainly tries the rider out. The kink on the straight, you know, there's a huge bump on the right-hand side before you go into it, so you can't go out over there before you tip left. And as you go through it, there's two great big wallows where the thing wants to hit the ground, the front wheel wants to come off the ground, and you know, you're doing about 240 kilometres an hour, and you're looking at a concrete wall. So
Now, you run two bikes in this team. Do you get information exchange between the two? Can you test two things at once with the two bikes?
we can, but basically what we've got now is a pretty set package as far as suspension and links and that goes. So we're both using the same, and then it's just rider preference. Riders are different. They need you know, different styles and that, and Damon's quite a bit different weight to me. So you know, we just personally work on it, and then if we've got some information we could exchange, then we do. And the technicians talk to each other all the time. But you know, if Damon wants to ask me something or I want to ask Damon something, we just do. You know, we have good communication throughout the team.
How would you describe your style?
I lean my bum off the seat, keep my body upright. That's more dirt track style, I guess. Then if it slides, you've probably got more body weight to throw around to correct it. Everyone would know a style of Eddie Lawson, John Kaczynski type style, where they lean their whole body off the bike. That's very good if you're a very smooth rider and the bike's working well and it doesn't do too much wrong, because if it does go wrong, your body weight's already all over one side and you can't move it anywhere else. So you know, you may not be able to correct the situation. So then you get, you know, someone like Abbe, who is sort of like Mick Doohan style, but even more so upright, and just lays the bike right over and keeps his body right up, and that's ready for anything that can happen, and anything can happen by the way he rides. So, but I ride with my body up and my backside off the seat, and you know, it's a style that I've always done.
Well, Ken, a great insight as to some of the styles that are out there, and especially